want somebody who's good at reading people. Who's good at reading? Wait, is your dad okay right now? Like he's probably like, is he like a?
Oh, he's like, crying.
Is he crying? He didn't know the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. Their dad's like a massive fan.
We went to students. Are they won?
No, Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. They just won. Yeah, it's nuts.
Did you see? They fumbled and they went back.
Don't blame one person. That's just me.
No, but like you know. I mean, yeah, it was a mistake, but they fumbled like 15 yards.
Well, since you're blaming him, why don't you come up on stage real quick?
I didn't blame him. I just said that
So,
he was the one that fumbled it.
I took Sadie and Keely and Katie. We went down to watch Disney on Ice the other day. It was fun. So I'm in a Disney mood. So we're going to play Disney reverse charades. So this is your charade partners. They're going to act out something for you. You can't look at the screen. Don't look at the screen. And you have to figure out what it is. Make sense? Now listen. I did a game with the middle. Can you turn number 1 down just a little bit? I'm having a little hum. On Wednesday night, I did a game with the middle schoolers. You were there to act out. They didn't do a very good job acting out, did they? No, it was. I mean, this should be the one. Are you all scared to look silly? Okay, then this would be fun. So here's your first one. Don't look at that screen ever. Act it out. No words.
What kind of words, like, is this?
Movie titles.
Okay.
Disney movie titles. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. You to figure this out.
What?
How about this? Use one. Okay.
Wow.
I know. How about this? I'll give you part of the lyric and they're gonna finish it. I can show you.
The world.
Oh, the Little Mermaid.
Oh!
Wait.
Aladdin.
I've never seen that.
You've never seen Aladdin?
No.
All right, sit down. Next person, come up here.
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, you're on the internet right now, so. Everyone say hi. Here's our whole time. All right, so here's yours. Ready? Car. See? It's that easy.
Yeah, when she's seen the movie.
All right, next one. Star Wars.
Hey.
Frozen. You're gonna keep going. You're gonna hush me. I saw that you did that here. Yeah.
That's smart.
Next. Yes. Well done. Well done. Next.
My favorite.
That was fantastic, though. That's fantastic. That's brilliant. I know what you're doing. I got it. Okay, here's your clue.
Exactly.
They remade it. This movie is only a little bit younger than me, but they've already remade it into a live action one.
I'm thinking of the name. Val? Yeah.
What's it called?
Good.
You want to keep going? Anyone else wants to try this or just let her go? Next. Okay, well done, well done. Next. Yeah, shoes is a good idea. shoot. I like it.
Time.
Yes.
Four.
Before it strikes something.
Oh, Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Good job.
Well done.
You should have put the shoes on.
Next.
You should have done the fitting of the shoes.
Yeah.
Oh, skip it. Actually, no. What?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, I go. Wait, go on like that. Mine too.
I don't know how you do this without being
I don't
offensive.
want to do it.
Don't do it.
Moana?
Just think about one that could probably be offensive and considered a cultural appropriation. Actually, it's Disney. Not as much as
What
this.
is it? Princess and the Frog. She does this.
History.
History.
It's a historical movie.
Pocahontas?
Pocahontas. You can ask Grace later what she didn't want to do.
What? Any of it. Was there specifics?
No.
Okay.
There's just, yeah.
Oh. Skip this one. I accidentally looked.
What was it?
Skip it. Tangled. I'm sorry. Oh. Good integrity. Really? Wouldn't it probably a little bit better if more than one person?
Wait. Everybody. Ready, Grace?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, wait, but I'm not on the side.
Everybody, let's watch her.
Okay. Oh, Andy's coming. Toy Story. Got it.
Well done. I think there's a couple more, right? That's it? Give it for Audrey. You guys are going to start leading more stuff. Well done.
Do you need your laptop?
That's all right.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Burn on my
I need
hand.
my phone with the birds.
That's good.
Welcome, everybody.
Is there anyone online?
Yeah.
How many people? Who is it?
I don't know.
Let's shout them out. Can we shout them out? Hi. Sometimes my parents watch it. Oh yeah, you guys can stand up here.
For good, you turn
Since 2019, no, almost did it wrong, 2019. Wow, 2021, man, since we have been together. Some of you guys I've seen at Passion, some of you guys I've seen around town, some of you were cool enough to come last week during the blizzard because I didn't cancel, I just didn't cancel the last second. I said I was going to wait, make the call at 4:30, well then it started snowing at what, like 5:30 or 5:45. I was like, well, let's just all go to dinner. So we all took Heather Bailey out for her birthday bash at Los Strongos. I'm still upset that they didn't throw the ice cream like in your face. Now you are. But it's good to have you guys here, and I know there's a few people watching online, but thank you guys too. I've missed you all. I do not like not being here on Sunday nights, hanging out with you guys. But I want to start off the story of a young girl. First off, actually, if you want to follow along, take some notes, you can scan that, and I will trust this as what you're doing on your phone, not playing Wordle or whatever it is that is now the popular thing. But let's start off with a story of a young girl. Story of a young girl. She feels like she's tied down. She feels like she's stuck, never being able to step into who she truly is. She feels like her life is out there, but she can never really actually get to the life that she has dreamed about. So she keeps standing at the edge of the water, long as she can remember, never really knowing why. She wishes she could be the perfect daughter, but she keeps coming back to the water no matter how hard she tries. Every turn she takes, every trail she tracks, every path she makes, every road leads back to the place she knows where she cannot go, where she longs to be. Meanwhile, the rest of the people in her life, and all the people she lives with in that community, while she knows everybody on that island, they seem so happy on that island. Everything's by design. She knows everybody on this island has a role, so maybe she could just roll with hers. She could lead with pride. She could make them strong. She would be satisfied if she played along, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? Moana. You didn't catch where I was going with that one. Told you, I'm on a Disney hype right now. But what is wrong with me? The story of Moana, if I think about the most recent Disney movies, we could talk about Encanto, but we don't talk about Bruno, so therefore I'm not going to go that direction tonight. But Moana is one of the most relatable ones. How many of you have never seen Moana? Just one?
What?
Only one person's not seen Moana? Hey, it's okay. Go watch Moana. I love it. It's a fantastic movie. There's only one negative. This stupid shiny song. I hate that. That's not a highlight. I hate that moment. But we all, if you think about it, the reason why it's relatable. It's stuck in your head the rest of the night. You're welcome. Also a nice Moana reference. You're welcome. It's okay to say you're welcome. But the reason why it's so relatable is that all of us want to experience the best life that we can. We all have this dream, this idea in our mind of what it looks like, and we're going to do anything we can to make that dream a reality. So the question that we're going to talk about tonight is, how can I live my best life? How can I live my best life? This is not a new idea. This has been an ongoing struggle for centuries, going back to the very beginning of time. Every single person who's ever lived has asked the question, how can I live my best life? Well, factor in today that the world we live in now says, well, your truth is your truth. So therefore, somebody is right, somebody could be wrong, but in this day and age, no, that can't be true. So then you throw in this idea of religion, Christianity in our regards, throw that in with that idea, and now we have a clashing of ideals, of dreams, of realities, of truth. For some, religion can be a very toxic thing. Religion can be a very toxic cancer that corrupts and divides society. Think about this, for example. There was a song, back in, you all saw the countdown at the very beginning that had different trivia questions. Some of you got some of them right. There was a song that became an anthem during the 70s. Adults, I know you guys will relate with this one because you know the song most likely. This song was also sung at the 2020 Olympics, and it became a very big anthem as everybody in their own language at the 2020 Olympics sang this song. Here's your lyrics. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us is only sky. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. Anybody know what that song's called? Imagine. Who's it by? John Lennon, one of the original members of the Beatles. If you're looking along the show notes or the notes for tonight, the sermon notes, there's actually a link. You can actually go watch the 2020 Olympics when this was done. Now, it's crazy if you think about the 2020 Olympics. So imagine, there's like 250 countries in the world. Not all of them are at the Olympics, but still like there's over 150 or whatever. And at that country, or at the Olympics, during that song, there are nations who are coming out, showing their support, showing their pride in their country. And one person who's being escorted out, showing their pride in their country, is the sister of the leader of North Korea. A country that says there's no religion, there is no God, and everybody who lives here has to agree with that. Actually living out the dream that John Lennon talked about, this idea of imagine a world, no religion, no countries, and everyone would just be one. What's interesting is that 8 years prior to that song being popular, there was another anthem that rang out from Washington, D.C., another idea, another dream, and you know probably some of these lines. I still have a dream. It's deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day out in the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the character. I have a dream today. I can't see it up there. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists and its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, that one day right down in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. He keeps going. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be engulfed, every hill shall be exalted, and every mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plains, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I will go back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out the mountains of despair as stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discord of our nation to a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to climb up for freedom together, knowing that we'll one day be free. Who said those words? Martin Luther King. Yeah, we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day. What would have been last month? Was it last Monday? Yeah, last Monday, 2 Mondays back. One of the two. The question I have, when you look at those different dreams, some of them are rooted in the idea that faith is toxic and should be eradicated and the idea of religion should be gone. The other one is deeply rooted in faith, deeply rooted in the very Christian hope of life. So the question I have is, who was right? If we follow the same principle we talked about last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, if you watched online 2 weeks ago, the foundation we laid was the foundation for our hope as Christians is always Jesus. Now, Jesus said this in John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Now, the translation says, have it abundant life. What does it exactly mean to have an abundant life? When we think about this idea of living out our best life, and you hear the 2 examples that we've just heard, what does it mean to have an abundant life? 2 thoughts. According to what Jesus says, 2 things I have to think about. First, Jesus is speaking about the abundant life we'll have in heaven. All right, so one day, as believers, we believe that one day there'll be no sin, there'll be no shame, there'll be no death, everything will be gone. And all will be well as we live our eternity with God. That could be one thing he's talking about here. The abundant life is then. The second thing is I think he's saying we can experience the abundant life right here and now. This idea that we can experience heaven right here on earth between the now and the not yet, before we die, before Jesus calls us home, whatever. We can experience life right now. Meaning that all the goodness of God we can experience today, all the joy that he promises, all the hope that he promises, we can experience right now. Now, I propose those two things are both right. You can experience the goodness of heaven now, and you'll experience it one day. Now, the idea of that is far-fetched for many people because if you look around our world, it's an utter mess. Would you agree? Which is why people write songs like Imagine. Which is the reason why, you can think about it, it's even why Martin Luther King said, I hope one day, I have a dream. Because the world around us is an utter mess. So where does that leave us then tonight? My main point tonight, and hopefully you take away from this, is that you and I, we can experience the abundant life of Jesus, the life that he offers us, only when we are connected to the true source of life. So how do you live your best life? You have to be truly connected to the actual source of life. And we're going to spend time looking at Jeremiah 17, verses 5 through 13. This is a passage from the Old Testament, from the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a prophet, and his mission was 550 years before Jesus. 550 years before Jesus, Israel was completely jacked up. They were messed up. They were doing all kinds of different things. And God brought Jeremiah and says, hey, if you don't turn this around, if you don't fix this, you're going to go into exile, basically captivity, for 70 years. And God raised up a nation that we know now to be the Babylonians, where we get King Nebuchadnezzar. He came in and wiped out Judah and Israel, took them all into captivity, which is a big deal. For 70 years. Why though? In chapter 2, verse 13, he says, my people have committed two sins. One, the first one is that they have forgotten me, or they've forsaken me. It's like, hey, I'm the one that led you out of Egypt. I brought you, you're my favorite people, and now you've forgotten about me. The second was that they started digging broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Like, what in the world does that mean? They were creating idols. They were bowing down to man. They were doing all these different things that they chose not to follow God. They chose to follow themselves, and they were digging for source of water, and all they were finding was nothing. They were utterly empty. And because of this, God used Jeremiah to speak judgment over them, to call them to repentance. I forgot my Bible. So we're going to look at a couple verses. I can't remember for you on the notes if I put that in there or not, but if you have a Bible, if you have your phone, Jeremiah chapter 17, starting in verse 5. It's a very good book if you want to study the Bible. All right, Jeremiah chapter 17, starting in verse 5. It says, thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes his flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord. So he just says there again, hey, if you follow after man and you follow after them, you follow your own heart instead of the Lord, you are cursed. He says, he is like a shrub in the desert and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in the parched place of the wilderness, an uninhabited salt land. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by the water that sends out its fruits by the stream, and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green. So, right off the bat, he sees two examples here. Two examples of two trees. Look at those two trees. What's the difference? What's the difference?
One has leaves.
One has leaves, it's alive. The other one is why?
Dry.
It's dry. What does a tree need to have? Water. So he says, you who follow after other gods, who bow down to man, who follows your own heart, he says you're like a tree in the wilderness, like a tree in the desert that has no water, meaning you are dead or dying. He says, but the rest of you who follow after me, whose trust is the Lord, you're like a tree planted by a stream, who's got leaves, they remain green. He says, goes on to say, you're not anxious at the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. So two trees. One's dead, one's alive. One is connected to something, one is not. Now, why was God judging these people? I said back in chapter 2, verse 13, they were rejecting him. And he says in chapter 2, verse 13, you're rejecting me, the source of living water, by digging a well, looking for water. And you're already connected right here. But he goes on to say here in verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Well, tell Disney that the idea of following your own heart is utter bullcrap if that's what we believe. Whoa. Actually, why Disney stopped making those movies, if you think about it. When was the last time you saw a Follow Your Heart movie? It's been a while. My childhood. But what we're seeing here, he says, you follow after other gods, you follow after other people, you follow your own heart, and you're desperately sick and you're desperately wicked and you have no life in you. Verse 10, the Lord searches the heart and tests the mind of every man and give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his deeds. Goes on to say, verse 11, like the partridge that gathers a brood that she does not hatch, so is he who gets riches not by justice. In the midst of the days they will leave him, and at this end will be a fool. Pay attention right here. Verse 12, a glorious throne set on high from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. Why do I emphasize that? So if you think about this, it says the heart's deceitful above all things. You have forsaken me. You're digging broken wells. You're going after idols. You're going after all these different things. And then he says, but here, a glorious throne set on high from the beginning is a place of our sanctuary. When somebody wants peace, remember the old days you've seen, like if you go back, we said it earlier, like Hunchback of Notre Dame. They go pounding on the sanctuary doors, and what do they scream? Remember? Sanctuary. That's a very common thing. They were seeking peace. They were seeking comfort in the presence of that church. They wanted comfort, and they wanted all that thing. And then here he says, you chase after all these other things, but I want you to follow after me, the one that's been from the beginning, the throne from the beginning, and be our sanctuary. Verse 13. O Lord, the hope of Israel, all who forsake you shall be put to shame. Those who turn away from you shall be written in the earth. For they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living water. It says, all those of you who have forsaken God are going to be put to shame. Now, I said the foundation of what we should be doing should be looking at Jesus. And you say, why are we spending time looking at an old passage from 550 years before Jesus ever lived? Because this idea of living water comes back up again and again. Specifically in John chapter 4. I have taught you guys this message up on this stage. You've heard me preach it from down that stage. During the pandemic, we did 21 days through John. You heard about it then. John chapter 4 is a story of a woman and Jesus. It's a woman who is an outcast. She's a Samaritan, which Jews considered half-breeds. Complete diversity here. And Jesus comes to her and starts talking to her, which is completely radical because at that time, a man would not talk to a woman in public, let alone a Samaritan woman, because they considered them dirty. And she'd been married 5 times. The man she's currently living with is not her husband, which leads us many to believe she's a very promiscuous woman. If you understand the word promiscuous, if not, just consider just modern words slut. Okay? This is what we're talking about. Jesus comes in, sits down with her, and he starts talking to her. We see in verse 10. This is absolutely crazy. There it is. Verse 10. Jesus answered, after asking her if she would give him a drink, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that's saying to you, give me a drink, you would ask him instead, and he would give you living water. There it is again. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us this well, and drank from it with him and all of his livestock. Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water I will give them will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him or her a spring of living water welling up to eternal life. He says, you come to this well every single day. You come here in shame, you come here in guilt, you come here trying to avoid people, and you keep digging, you keep digging, you keep digging, you keep trying to get water, and yet you're still completely empty. But I have something better. I have living water, eternal water. If you take this from me, you'll never be thirsty again. Not literally, not like the whole like Gatorade quench your thirst thing. No, so if you take this, you will always be satisfied. And what he's doing here, he's speaking to her and what she actually needs. What she actually needs was not the 5 men that have been in her life, not the current man in her life, not the judgment of anybody else, not the water in the well. The current thing that she actually needs is who? Jesus himself. He's like, hey, and he goes on to say a little bit later, hey, I'm the Messiah, which is the first time in the Gospels that Jesus says, hey, that's me. He chose to say it to her. He possesses the one thing that every single person is longing for, but typically do not know they need. The average person does not know that's what they need. He says, I offer you myself. Imagine having, I was going to do it, but then I thought I had to buy something to break it, but whatever. Imagine having a pot, and you just keep putting water into it, and then imagine that's your life. Right there, that pot is holding your life. And all of a sudden a little hole develops, and you start patching that hole, then another little hole develops, and you start patching that hole. And then basically what life is really like is someone takes a giant sledgehammer and busts that thing up, right? Really think about it. COVID hits. Sin hits. Parents hit. You get divorced. You just have all this stuff in your life. All this stuff just falling apart. And now you're left with a bunch of scotch tape and a bunch of broken pottery trying to piece it back together just to see if you can hold water. Is it going to hold water? No. Not at all. All you end up finding out is that the one simple truth is that we are all still empty. We are all still empty. We cannot hold water ourselves. We cannot find water in anything. We can look good for a moment. We can feel good for a moment. But in reality, we're always empty. And there's a difference between that tree that is planted in the desert and a tree near a stream. What's the difference? One's connected to the source of life. One's connected to the source of life and experiences life, while the other one only experiences emptiness and decay and death. Let me give you some examples here. Did you know, statistically speaking, not always, I'm not trying to make a generalized statement, but statistically speaking, people who actively go to church and participate actively in church are happier, healthier. Did you know that? There are studies that show that people who attend regularly find a common sense of duty, they find a common sense of purpose, and they actually find themselves being happier. There's a Harvard professor who is himself an atheist, calls church, active engagement in church, a magical medicine that you drink. An atheist. That same professor also found that those children who are brought up and raised in the church statistically are healthier and have more purpose in life than those who are not. So well done, y'all. Yeah, you're here. Also, statistically speaking, the people who attend church more regularly and worship are less likely, hear me out on this one, less likely to experience depression. That's not saying that you, if attend, you will not. But statistically speaking, you are less likely. Again, you know my own story. I battled through that. I'm not saying you will not. But what you do find within a church is that when you do go through those valleys of depression, mental health issues, just despair, you find people in your life that you now have a common purpose with who are willing to walk through that exact same valley with you. Every single person, what I'm trying to say is that they have found their ultimate source in Jesus. Now, another thing I'm not saying is that when you are a Christian, life is easy. How many of you think that life is easy? If the Christian life is not easy, did you know that 10 of the original 12 disciples were killed for their faith? Only one died of old age. We all know what happened to Judas. But we know one died of old age, but his life was still hell on earth. Like there's legends that he was boiled and still lived. He was thrown onto an island by himself. Another thing that we find in the Christian community, another thing when we're connected and we're engaged, is that we experience a love that people are looking for but they can't find. What do I mean by that? We all want to be loved, we want to be known, we want to belong, and within the Christian faith, what we believe is that we are proclaiming that there's a God who loves you so much that he sent his own son to die for you so that you could have the fullness of life. No other religion promises that. Every other religion says, have this, do this, and you'll have life. When we're saying no, life has come in Jesus. When we experience that love, we believe that it changes absolutely everything. So there's that. There's another benefit here. Another benefit that we don't talk about regularly is that you actually benefit personally from helping and loving others. Now, I'm not saying we serve others to make ourselves feel better, but you actually do feel better when you love and serve other people. Did you know that? It's kind of common sense when you start thinking about it. You feel good for doing a good deed. Jesus himself even said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Even though Christians are known, And I work with a bunch of them. I live life with a bunch of them. Hear me out. Christians are sometimes known as the most selfish people I've ever met. But statistically speaking, they are 3.5 more times likely, 3.5 times more likely to give money to charity and volunteer twice as much as people who do not go to church. Interesting. Why? Because they follow a mandate that God says to love one another and to love Him. Another thing we experience when we are connected, we experience gratitude. Sometimes not the most obvious one because sometimes we forget this. We worship a God who freely created us and died for us, so now we have a reason to have a different tune. Most of our Facebooks and social media accounts don't reflect us as Christians, but we actually have a reason to be grateful in life. Hot take. Just shut off all social media. We have a reason to sing, a reason to worship, a reason to give, a reason to share, a reason to serve, and a reason to always be thankful. And lastly, something that we experience that we don't really experience anywhere else in this life, not to the full that what we're talking about here, we experience and we extend forgiveness like no other. You have been given this amazing gift of forgiveness. Basically saying that in Jesus, your slate, that slate that's been building up for your 15 years of life, 17 years of life, the slate of things that you haven't even done yet has already been taken care of. And once you experience that, you now have the ability to extend that same forgiveness to somebody else. You see like moments where people forgive somebody, you see how freeing it is for that person, but you also see how freeing it is for the other person. I'm thinking, my mind just wandered for a second. I love the show Big Bang Theory. Anybody else? Didn't think so. Oh, one. So, spoiler, Leonard has mom issues. She's a psychiatrist who's always analyzing him and critiquing him. His entire life he's feeling like he can't measure up. So like, I've been your test subject my entire life. And then like, end of the season, end of the show, he says, Mom, I forgive you. She's like, I didn't ask you to. He's like, I don't care. I did it anyways, and I feel better for it. And then she gives him this most affectionate hug ever, like the first time in his life. And it just freed up their relationship. In the same way, we've now experienced forgiveness and we now can extend it in the same way. We live knowing that we are already forgiven and we have a promised home before us. So as that same atheist psychologist, that professor, he suggests, I don't know if I have this. No, I don't. He suggests this. Just as plants need sun, water, and good soil to thrive, people need love, work, and a connection to something larger. Think through those things. You need love. I think we'd all agree that people in this world need love, need work. My wife said one time the greatest thing that God ever did in Genesis chapter 3 when Adam and Eve all messed up was send Adam to work. Because they now have to have time apart from each other. No, he gave us something to do. Work meaning purpose. And a connection to something larger. See, we simply believe that something larger is who? Jesus. The fount of living water, the source of life, and the life that we do not have to wait for. Christians always find themselves waiting just for what that day will bring, when you can actually experience it right now. No, you're not going to experience freedom of sin, freedom of life. You're not going to experience that. I'm talking about the good things of like, you can now serve, you can now love, you can now freely live knowing you are loved. So the key, if I ask the question, the key to how do you live your best life? I believe, and I think Scripture tells us, and I just truly believe, even statistically, I've just walked you through some examples. The key to living your best life is making sure you're actually connected to the true source of life. The actual source of life. And we believe that to be Jesus, the fount of living water, whose life was given for us. What I'm not saying is you will not find life in anything other than Him. If you try to find life in a spouse one day, they're going to disappoint you. So right now, as you guys, you're like, I'm not talking about marriage yet. You guys talking about dating? You try to find life in a 17-year-old boy? Yeah, right. Guys, girls, no. If you try to find it in your education, one bad grade will wreck your entire life. Try to find it in your identity. When one person says you're one thing, and another person says another, and your parent comes and says you're one thing, and another person says you're another, now you're having an entire identity crisis. Or if there's one thing about you, like guys or girls, if there's one thing about you and that's your sports ability, like your athletic ability, imagine that being stripped from you with an injury. Now your entire identity is gone. Or maybe it's just in your relationships. Sadly speaking, we talked about this morning at FPCW, you're going to die. Your family's going to die. Sorry, spoiler. Remember Ricky Bobby, he once said in one of his commercials, 97% of us will die at some point in our life, therefore call this funeral home. Sorry, I love that line. And I always think, why 97%? Anyways, life is completely fragile. So therefore we can't put hope in a person, a family member, a parent, a grandparent, a friend. You can't do it. There's no life in those things. The only true source of life, and when I'm talking about life, I'm talking about the fullness of life where you experience joy, peace, kindness, gentleness, all the benefits of God, you can only find when you're actually connected to Him. Let's pray and we're going to sing a song together. God, I pray for this group of students who are here. I pray for those watching online as well. I pray that we always remember that the only true source of life is you. And I just pray that we follow you, listen to you, and we love you as much as you have loved us. God, we worship you. We give you back the very breath in our lungs as we sing the songs to you. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
You all can stand.
Walking around these walls,
a seat just for a minute before you guys break off into your small groups. Like I said, it's been since 2021 that we've been together. It's been too long, and there's people missed them, and I missed all of you. If you're watching and you're not here, I'm shame on you. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you're watching football or I don't know what else is on TV tonight. Boo, right? Anyways, I want everyone to be back here in full force. I miss everybody, and I'm excited about where we're going from here because the next several weeks, actually all the way to the end of the school year, we're going to be in this series that we're titled Asking for a Friend. Every week we're going to ask a very controversial question. Next week is Christianity against diversity? Another way of saying it, isn't Christianity just a white man's religion? There we go. Come back next week to hear Scott's answers. Just kidding. The Bible's answers. We're going to ask questions like, what is truth anyways? Can't we just be good? How can you believe the Bible is true? Hasn't science disproved Christianity? And you can have a Q&A with your favorite pastors. Meaning Tony. You're welcome. And we'll have all these different questions. In the middle of that, we're going to break to allow you guys to ask questions that we may not have talked about. You'll be able to submit questions like we've done in the past. Hear both of us and maybe a couple other people answer. She already left for 1 week. In April, Becky's going to speak. That's going to be awesome. Tony's going to speak a few times. I'm trying to get Tony Postaway, so you guys can go, like, come on, you should have Tony Postaway to speak too. But I want you all to be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to it, but we need to invite people back. So text everybody, say, where were you? If it's about the Bengals, I mean, that's cool, I guess. In a couple of weeks, the Super Bowl's here. And you guys just said boo football, so boo football. We will have a normal Sunday night during the Super Bowl, and timing-wise, we'll still have normal night, sort of. And at the end, we'll break. If you guys want to stay and watch the game, we'll stay and watch the game. Some of you guys like, I hate football. Go to Shogun as a group. Go to Los Strongest as a group. I don't really like football that much either. She can invite me to Shogun. I'll be happy man. I'll come back and say, hey, you guys go home. Lock the door. Bye. Just kidding. But come back next week. We'll talk about a couple other events that are coming up, and then we'll have a great time moving forward. Let's have an amazing school year. You guys have a great... Yes, Heather.
I have a question.
You have a question?
People might have wondered over the past few weeks, the ones that maybe you owe a meal to when you're going to do it. Yeah.
I'm ready to do it.
Okay.
You tell me when.
Now.
Now? Whose group is it? I don't remember. Is it your all's group? Just your, like, you 5?
Yeah.
3rd, do you remember?
And
No idea.
junior, senior girls.
So, yeah. Tell me when. If you want to do it tonight, that's fine. I'm leaving it up to you guys. You want to plan for it next week, where we have a little bit more time to prepare. Put me on the spot here. That's great. Let's go for next week.
Okay, next week on Sunday.
Next of the night. So as soon as they go to a small group, we're like, gone. And we'll go eat.
Leave the losers.
Wow.
Somebody do
She
that.
didn't mean it. All right. Have a great time chatting with your leaders. Text everybody and say, come back next week. We miss you. If you're watching, I miss you too. I'm sorry I said you were shameful. I'm just kidding. I don't mean that. So.
Yes, he does.
Mabry's online. Hi, Mabry.
Hey,
Libby!
Hi, Libby.
hopefully you're feeling better.
Hopefully you're still watching.
Yeah.
Well, I asked them, I was like, hey, if you're watching online, tell us because you all want to know. And no one ever answered. So, yeah.
Poo on you.
Poo on you, says Ella. Oh my gosh.
Video?
You taking us?
Yeah, I got